What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Thai Live channel. I'm Min Thai, and in this podcast for you today, I know usually I would talk about the nails and the nails industry and all that, but today I have a special guest for you. This is my best friend, Du Hon, and he is a math teacher, but not just that. He is also the coach of the robotic team. And this man right here, I kid you not, every single year, he takes the team to national. Yeah. And I want to bring him on this show so that if your kids are interested in STEMs, education, robotics, you're going to get all the 411 from this gentleman. Go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself, sir.
Oh, man, thank you very much for having me here. And, I understand. Am I your first guest here? I'm like,
Unfortunately, you are not my first guest, but I am so happy to have you here because I know STEMs has been something that is hyping it up in this day and era. Yeah. And a lot of parents probably want to put their kids in these programs. Yeah. So I would love to know is how do you start from a math teacher and getting into robotics? Yeah. And how do you elevate yourself into national champion robotic team?
Well, I think the most important thing to know about, especially from the parent standpoint, is that, how do I get my kids involved in doing this stuff? And especially, right now, compared to like 20 years before, AI is a big thing, right? And if we don't get our kids prepared for that, I'm not saying that everyone should be being programmers or be doing robotics, but if we don't get our kids prepared for it, I think it's going to be a lost cause later on because things are moving so fast, right? So for me, I think robotics is a passion because the thing is that it allows kids to be creative. Right. It's not one of those things like in a regular class. Remember, back in the days when we used to be in elementary school, middle school.
Yeah.
Right? We go in there, we sit down, teacher lectures.
Yeah.
We do our homework. Great, you learn stuff, right? But the thing is that when do you ever apply any of that stuff?
Right.
And that's right. I mean, like from your experience, haven't you had a time like, oh man, I don't want to learn this stuff because
you don't even know what you're gonna use it for.
No.
Right.
No, right. And so here, I think one of the things is that especially for STEM and robotics. Allows the kids to be more engaged. I'm the type of person, I'm not sure about you, but I'm the type of person that learns when it's very hands-on.
Me too.
Right? Not everyone is book smart.
Correct.
Right?
Boy, you can give me a book and I can study all night and still fail the test. But if you teach me to do something, I can learn the step and practice that same thing and do it over and get better at it.
Right? The hands-on component.
Correct.
There's been a lot of research behind the fact that, kids learn better when they're actually actively engaged, they're using their motor skills, and they're really into be able to problem solve, right?
Correct.
That's the biggest thing. And the reason why I've gotten I started out as a math teacher and then eventually got myself into STEM is because that I realized that teaching math is great. I love math, but the thing is that not every kid is going to be a math kid. Like imagine in class, right?
I suck at math, man, and I'm Asian. I make the Asian community look bad, dude. Right? Because a lot of people believe that Asians supposed to be at math. Look at me, I am not good at math. Don't give me anything that's fraction.
Right, so the thing is this. I mean, like again, not every yes, there'll be a lot of kids that are smart that can handle this because they've had a lot of practice.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I would say 95% of the population of the kids in school, they need that type of stuff in order to do well, right?
I agree with you.
Right? So then that's why I was like, what, we need something especially for the kids to be able to really love doing what they do, right? And just it doesn't seem like it's something boring or something like that's mundane. But they need to be able to have that competitiveness. They need to have that practice. And for me, it was robotics.
Nice.
That's why I like doing it day in and day out. And, again, no matter if you're in the Bay Area or in the Central Valley or elsewhere, robotics has really been able to bring up the technicality, the being able to prepare our nation and our kids to go into those jobs.
Wow.
Right?
So, as I mentioned earlier, you have taken your team to national. But I know it didn't start out like that. So can you give me a little bit of scoop of how you really start building that robotic team from scratch? I mean, like, if somebody was going to come up to you and say, like, how do you do it, Mr. Hong? What would be your answer?
Well, let me tell you, the answer is there's no magic behind it, right? I mean, with anything, right? Even right now, what you're doing, there's no magic behind it. That's a lot of hard work.
Correct.
Right? And, the truth is, there's always hard work that needs to be put in. Now, obviously, I've been doing robotics for a long time, and I kind of know what it takes to be able to prepare a team. But I think the main component is to be able to build confidence in the kids, right?
Right.
So robotics is really different. It's like, okay, so you think of it as a sport. Like, for example, you think basketball, football,
Right.
right? How does a team get good? How does a player get good?
They practice.
They practice.
Yes.
Same thing in robotics, right? They have to have plenty of practice so that they feel confident in doing what they do.
Wow.
Right? So robotics, I would say, is for me, it's almost like a sports, but it's for the sports for the mind.
But what if
Right.
the kids out there, they want to be in robotics, but they feel like they don't have the capability? So how do you get them ready for
Yeah.
those opportunities?
First of all, I think there's a stereotype that a lot of kids that are doing robotics are smart and they already know what they're doing.
Correct.
But actually, to tell you the truth, whenever I work with kids in this field, I usually try to not pick kids or not work with kids who already know it. I actually pick kids who are more motivated, who are
Wow.
willing to learn. Because the thing is, that's the main key to be able to have a successful, a person in robotics, successful team.
Wow. Now, when you go to these events, they must be expensive. So how do you come up with the fundings? Because I know school are very limited with fundings. And so how do you get the fundings and how do you get people involved to help you with the program?
Yeah. So I think it's just it's different depending on where you are
Correct.
geographically, right? Because there are certain areas in the United States where parents and kids can afford to pay for those travels, and there are certain areas where it's more supported by the government and public schools.
Correct.
Right. So and I've worked in both settings, and one thing is you have to realize is that what works in one doesn't work in the other. So
Wow.
it does get expensive, especially in the previous school I worked at. It's every year we would go to states, we would go to nationals, we also go to world.
Wow.
And when we attend those competitions, you have the registration fee, you have flights, hotel. Sometimes, because it's the age group that we're dealing with, sometimes it's not only for the kids but the family that comes along. So in a different situation, for example, if you're talking about where in a scenario where a public school is supporting the program, then obviously the district has to kind of, this is a big thing for a district when a team makes it to national and world. So we would, it's assume that usually the district steps in to be able to
Correct.
send the kids to these competitions. Versus on the other side, it's usually, because of its, depending on how big the program is, sometimes we ask for parent support to be able to
Wow.
with those funding.
So from your experience of doing robotic, what has been the outcome that you see from your students?
Well, the great thing, I work at I've worked in both the middle school and high school age for robotics. But one of the things I love about working in the middle school is the fact that number one, middle school is a point where kids are trying to figure out what they want to do.
Correct.
Right. And if at that point it's a perfect age for them to be doing this because kids that would not normally think that would like to do robotics, they end up the one excelling in robotics,
Wow.
right? So again, the thing is that it's not you just can't judge a kid by the books, by the cover. Because
Right.
the thing is that again, the idea is to be able to give everyone access, to give everyone a fair chance to have them exposed to this, and especially at the middle school level, they want to be able to figure out what they want to do in life and what they're interested in, and the best way to do that is in robotics. And for the middle school I worked at, they had three, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. So I would have the kids in all three grade levels, and they would start off, being really shy, not knowing what they're doing, being very not so confident.
Correct.
But the thing is that my goal is at the end of the 8th grade year, they're gonna be someone that's confident,
Wow.
that goes in, knows exactly how to execute,
Correct.
and being able to work as a team, being able to know how to lead each other, and this is at the 8th grade level.
Wow.
So imagine a kid, you would never imagine that an 8th grader at that age, or let alone anyone at that age, would be able to have that confidence to lead and run their own team. But that's the capacity I want to build in each of the individuals.
Wow. So with all your international appearances, what is the preparation like?
Well, again,
Especially you are dealing with these young kids. I mean, how do they handle the pressure? How do you calm them down? And how do you get them ready?
well, again, I always refer back to robotics as being a sport, right? Again, for example, look at tennis. Tennis is all sports of, it's a mind game. When you lose, you actually lost because you're losing against yourself.
Correct.
Right? It's not your opponent. You always make those mistakes because the mentality that you go into the game with, certain situation when you're losing, how do you tell yourself to kind of back out from that, and how to be able to revert your mindset so that you can do better.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
So it's less of a robotics thing, but more of how to be able to treat. I mean, help kids develop that mindset to be able to overcome certain things that upset losses
Wow.
and to keep them going. Because in robotics, again, it's always that thing. When kids get frustrated, when kids get, when they're like losing matches after matches after matches, they don't want to do this anymore. They're like,
Correct.
man, I don't think we have a chance of winning. But the thing is, my job is to come in and say, hey, this is our goal. This is what you gotta do. Remember, we practice this plenty. Let's have that mindset. You can do it, and then being able to like build that confidence in them,
Wow.
build that positivity in them, and then they
Wow.
go out and we execute.
Wow, that's amazing. And what is your biggest challenge when you guys are going through the competition and building the team, getting them ready? Like, what would be your biggest challenge?
I think other people don't see this as the biggest challenge, but so again, the majority of the kids I work with are middle school kids.
Correct.
So I'm pretty sure for those who have dealt with middle school kids, that age group is a really interesting age group.
Correct.
Not because they don't have respect or anything, but because at that age group they're trying to figure out themselves. Who
Right.
they want to be, what they're trying to do, what they like, what they don't like, and sometime at that age group they're always trying to look for someone to follow. Right? Sometimes it might be a bad example. Sometimes it might be a good example.
I agree.
So at that age group, it's really difficult to kind of like get them to settle down and get them to really stay focused on certain things.
Right.
And that's been my biggest challenge, especially when I was running a club of 8 teams and possibly more than 90 students on a team.
Wow.
So imagine dealing with not just one or two.
So that's how many teams you take to the tournament.
Most times.
So how many kids that total?
So depending on the year, like we've had as high as 95
Wow.
kids, middle school kids, and
And how many teams go to national?
there's been years where we sent all 8 teams to national,
Wow.
all 8 teams to world.
I'm telling you
it
guys,
depends.
this man, when it comes to robotic, he is no joke. I know this man. He's my best friend and a very respected teacher. But when it comes to robotic, you do not want to mess with this guy. And the reason why I brought him on this show is because I want you guys to understand how important it is for STEM's education. And I want you guys to understand that this robotic stuff that we are talking about right now is almost equivalent to what AI is like right now, guys.
That's what it is. And again,
What is it?
so like parents are always wondering, well, what should I put my kids in?
Right.
Right now here, especially here, right? There's a lot of sports, right?
Right.
Which is great, but again, I think one of the things is that as the way things are working, as the way schools are going, as the way jobs are being transformed, especially right now, we're living in like such a big change in our era where AI is literally going to take over. I mean, whether we like it or not, right? Whether we like it or not.
I agree with you.
There's been, you'll see the headlines.
Correct.
AI is going to take over a good chunk of the workforce
Correct.
in the coming years.
Yes.
And I know, like, I'm against that.
Right.
Because it takes out, takes away the livelihood of people.
All right.
But the thing is that, I think as an educator, we always try to be able to prepare our future,
Right.
whether it be our kids, your kids, to be able to for this type of revolution,
Right.
right? And so as parents, you're always wondering, okay, well, how do I do that? What's in it for me? What happened to my kids? Don't like robotics. Why is it that they should consider putting them into robotics? Because
Correct.
parents put kids in soccer, gymnastic,
Yeah.
karate. It's great, right?
Right.
I mean, every kid should be well-rounded.
Right.
I think now more so than ever, I think being involved in a STEM and robotics program is very crucial
Wow.
because let me tell you, no one's gonna be flipping burgers later on.
No. Robotics going to be doing that.
There you go, right?
Wow.
It's like if you look back about in the industrial era, there was someone going around lighting the light for the street lamps.
Right.
Right. That was an actual job.
Right.
Does that exist anymore?
Nope.
Nope. So the thing is now it's so.
I mean,
crucial
you
that-
starting to see like self-checkout.
Yeah.
You starting to see robot server now, like that robot that brings the food out.
Right.
I mean, the world is changing, and we got to make sure that we are on top of our game.
Right. So the whole thing with AI and robotics. Again, this is not to say I'm in favor of it. This is saying regardless of what, we still have to be able to prepare our kids, our future, to be ready for this.
Right.
And one of it is again in robotics. So you as a parent, you might be wondering, so what do kids learn in robotics? Right.
Right.
So number one, obviously programming. You
Right.
learn the basics of programming because you have
Correct.
to do a lot of. You have to tell the robot what to do. Number two, mechanical skills. You have to
Right.
be able to build the robot. Number three is the most biggest thing, and of all, is actually how to work as a team.
Right.
Right. So that is the most crucial part, regardless of whether they are interested in the technical stuff.
Right.
So that's why being a part of robotics really helped build the confidence
Correct.
in kids, and that goes a long way, no matter what kind of job they're gonna be in
Right.
in the future.
I agree with you. So, with that being said, are you still doing robotic right now, or you have something going on for yourself?
Yeah, so I've recently had a little bit of a career change due
Okay.
to family reasons, things like that.
Yeah.
And so now as an educator, I always like to kind of help people out and be able to kind of pass the whole message about why robotics is important,
Right.
and in different communities.
Correct.
So, one of my thing is to really be able to support teams, schools, and any organization that loves to do these type of things, or it's even wondering, hey, we want to do robotics. This seems like something new. Well, can you help us?
Right. Right.
So I've kind of gone into down the consultant route, and my goal is to be able to pass, kind of spread this message out throughout all the families, schools, and the larger community, so that we can better prepare our kids.
Man, I think what you're doing is great, man. I mean, throughout the year of knowing you, you have helped so many kids, and you have helped so many. You have built like a good pave for some of these new generation, man, and you're passionate about it.
Yeah, I think one other thing is that yes, we can all have a job, but I think the job that we all want is something that we wake up every single morning and able to do it for free, and happy to do it.
Right.
Right, and that's a passion right there. Right?
That's awesome,
So,
man. So any recommendation of parents at home right now that's watching, like if they are curious about getting their kids in STEMs, what would be the right program? Like what would be the best advice you can give for any parents who's wanting to put their kids in one of these robotic programs?
Yeah. So I think, depending on where you're at, what community, I think the very first thing you want to be able to start is at the school, to be able to ask the school about whether they have any robotics or STEM program after school, or STEM courses during the day. If not, then you can go out to the community, because I know in certain areas there are communities that have robotics teams as a private team, like a private soccer club.
Right.
Right. So and then if not, there's always plenty of resources online. And robotics is for all different types of age group, ranging from, I would say, about first, second graders all the way up to university level. So there's plenty of resources online. First Robotics, Vex Robotics, those are the two main organization that does this. And so all you have to do is just kind of start somewhere, and then find someone who's willing to be able to help guide you through the process of getting your child involved in robotics.
Man, thank you so much for being on this, man. I appreciate all the information that you gave us. And if you guys have any question, is there any way they can reach you to if help with robotic consultant? Like, is there an email, website, anything?
Yeah, so I actually just recently started my own channel on YouTube. I mean, haven't been too on posting my videos, but I wanted to start the channel so that I can have parents more aware about what robotics is. It's called Robotics is Life. Right?
Nice.
Because for me, and when I thought about it, for me, when my students were working with me, they were literally working hard with robotics and not playing game, not doing anything else. So we always made the joke that, hey, we gotta do this right, because we day in and day out and being able to do robotics. So that's why it's being able to do Robotics Live. But yeah, they can contact me. I'll probably give you my email and post it in the comments.
You got it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. I hope you guys learned something. As you all know, I do talk about nail content, but I always want to bring entrepreneur, people who works hard to share their stories, to share their background, because at the end of the day, we're only human and we all have our own circumstances. And if you can use any one of our experience for any type of thing in your life to benefit you, please do so, because that's what the show is all about. Thank you for listening. Let's go ahead and tune into the music. Thank you so much, everybody. Y'all have a wonderful time. Thank you for listening. I'm out.